Will he take home Finals MVP regardless if the Bucks win or lose? Talk some football. So many great wide receivers in the game right now. Which one, though, deserves the top spot we discuss? And back to the NBA. What is the key to Game 5 and who holds it? Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolf, Brandon Marshall, Nick Wright, Kevin Welch. Brandon, what day is it today? We waited all week to ask you this.
Oh, yeah. It's Friday and it's over. It's Friday and it's over. The Sun's in 6. Jenna. The Bucks still alive, but it's over.
Here we go.
It's over.
Here we go. Okay. We didn't get one in edgewise, Nick.
Since Brandon debuted that song, the Suns have not won a game. Just for the record.
I know, you want to say it.
It's been great.
You want to say it.
Since that song hit the charts.
Speaking of the Suns, speaking of the Suns, let's talk about why the Suns have 0 wins since Brandon started singing that great song, the lyrically strong song. Chris Paul, his struggles in Game 4 really cost the Suns. Just 10 points and 5 turnovers on a night when Devin Booker lit it up as Phoenix blew an opportunity to go up 3-1 in the series. Now, CP3 did take responsibility afterwards. He vowed to take better care of the ball, which he needs to do. But, Nick, let's look at the big picture. Is Chris Paul's legacy on the line in these NBA Finals?
No. Chris Paul's legacy is secure, and some of that is actually by happenstance. And by that I mean the guys who he is competing with, as far as, you know, the 10 greatest point guards ever, the 8 greatest point guards ever, the guys who are in that tier behind Magic, Oscar, Steph, and Isaiah, none of them have some all-time great finals moment or finals series, save for Walt Clyde Frazier, on their resume. So, like, listen, I think it's pretty clear that Chris Paul's had a better career than Walt Frazier. So then who are we talking about? Steve Nash and what are his great finals games? Well, there aren't any because he never played in them. John Stockton made a couple of NBA finals. He was pretty good in the first, not that good in the second. Jason Kidd made 2 NBA finals as the best player on the Nets. He was good that first series, but they got swept. Russell Westbrook, he was actually pretty damn good. That people forget it, averaged like 27 a game against the Heat, but they lost in 5. So who is the great point guard we're saying, like, well, now Chris Paul falls beneath him on the list? There isn't one, because those guys don't have rings either, or in Kidd and Gary Payton's case, they got their rings at a far different part of their career. So I think Chris Paul's legacy as the 5th greatest point guard ever is cemented. I think he will have a bounce-back game in Game 5. I don't think we're going to look back on these finals and be like, Chris Paul cost the Suns the finals. I think we're going to look back on these finals and say Giannis took the finals. So, Brandon, I don't think his legacy is going to go backwards, even if, and I know you don't think the Suns are going to lose, but even if the Suns do lose, I don't think his legacy is going to go backwards.
Listen, I agree with you for the most part, Nick, but legacy, that's a big conversation, man. Me as a football player, I played 13 years. I never made the playoffs. I did some amazing things, almost 1,000 catches, 13,000 yards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but I never made the playoffs. So they're going to talk about all of that, and then they're also going to say, well, you remember Brandon never made the playoffs. Brandon played for the Jets, Brandon played for the Broncos, and never made the playoffs. That's going to be a part of my story for the rest of my life, and then some. So when you think about Chris Paul, yes, as far as a leader, everything you said, as far as a point guard, now you can add something else to his legacy, the re-energizer wilds. That is solidified, but also what will be solidified and a part of his legacy, cemented, forever cemented, is, man, when he got in the postseason, he imploded. So I don't want that to happen, obviously. I don't want that to happen just because I picked them, because as a player, you don't want to go on, you know, and then every time you turn on ESPN, you're 45 years of age sitting on the couch, and everybody's talking about the good old days in the finals. Say, oh, y'all remember CP3? Y'all remember when we were all cheering for him, and then all of a sudden, we got to the finals, and then there was 2 or 3 games where he turned the ball over, Don't that remind you of 2012? Doesn't that remind you of 2014? Yeah. So, wow, this conversation about legacy, everything goes into play.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think to Nick's point, Brandon, if Chris Paul plays great, obviously his legacy doesn't go backward. If he just plays fine, his legacy doesn't go backwards. But Nick, if he plays poorly, I don't know if he moves on your point guard list, but people will certainly say or put an asterisk next to the first line of his Wikipedia now that people talk about, which is where Chris Paul goes, winning follows. After last game, when he played terribly, I think you have to say, all right, if you play terribly, you know, in Game 5, people are going to question his general sort of like, are we willing to say, like, yeah, he's a winner? But the main question is this, and I want to spin it forward because you mentioned it yesterday. I want to play the sound. Do you think Chris Paul is hurt? Can we play the sound?
And we saw you getting your hand wrapped up. Everything good? You feeling good for Game 2 already?
I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. Thanks so much, Chris.
All right, Melissa.
I appreciate you.
Okay, so since that quote, Nick, the guy has 15 turnovers.
Yeah.
And he hinted at it when he went to the finals. They had his torn ligaments in his hand. You kind of kicked it around yesterday. Do we think that this is all decision making, or do we think this is a real injury?
No, I think he's hurt, and I also think it doesn't matter. I think that you mentioned that, well, if he plays really poorly, that's going to be on the resume. I don't want to be rude. I think that's a little prisoner of the moment-y. Like, what's John Stockton's worst playoff game ever? Do you know? No, none of us remember it. I do believe, though, he had 2 points in a finals loss to the Chicago Bulls. Dusty can fact-check me on that. Nobody, but that's the timeline of history forgets those things, right? And when you say part of it, Chris Paul's story is winning and bringing winning, the Suns had not been to the playoffs in a decade. They had not been to the finals in 28 years, and here they are. And so because of that, I think that just getting here will be remembered quite fondly. I also, and so when it comes to the injury, well, go ahead, tell me. Okay, well, go ahead, tell me.
No, it's
I think people remember if they win, not just getting there when the narrative is written. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like and I know that this is a particularly like sort of gets in your craw that LeBron gets sort of dinged for making it to the finals and not winning. But it gets down to like the old like Olympic medalists. Like you're better off, like the bronze medalist is happier than the silver medalist. Like the silver medalist didn't win gold, the bronze medalist medaled. So if you go there, if you win the silver medal, it feels I just don't put that in as high as esteem. I don't think most people don't. But you do. You're an exception to the rule.
Everybody says that. No, but
Bye.